and now listening to a Purple Crayon Productions broadcast.
You're going on a road trip. You're not sure where it will take you, just that you need to take it. You woke up one morning and looked at the sky and felt the inexplicable need to drive. And so you drove, and now you're on an interstate, following the pull of the sun and the mountains and thinking it was far too easy to just walk away. But you did. And so you drive, and as you drive you wonder what strange things are lying ahead of you. You wake up to the sound of the ocean and the feeling of mist drifting through your open window. From your small motel room you can see the Pacific Ocean and hear the sound of birds coming in from the water. There are shells and sea glass on your bedside table, and you pick them up as you head out the door and drive down the Oregon coast. You drive through mountain roads covered in grass and wildflowers, and they sit, carefully placed, in your passenger seat. You glance at them every once in a while, trying to preserve the magic of the quiet seaside spirits. You turn inland, and it's almost noon when you finally cross over into Nevada. Welcome to Nevada, the sign says, the Silver State. It's colored like a sunset, with silhouettes of mountain ranges in the background. And as you drive further and further south, the ground becomes less green, less filled with trees and flowers and ponds. It's drier, vibrant in a different way, filled with warm colors and earth tones. You've reached the desert. The desert of Nevada is the driest in North America, filled with red rocks, famous twilights, dunes, and salt flats. There are myths of hidden treasures and canyons, of lost explorers in the snowy mountain peaks the state was named for, and, maybe most famously, there are hundreds of UFO sightings each year. You ponder this as you pass through the desert, a little lonelier and a little emptier than you'd like. And that's when you make it to Crystal Springs. It's a ghost town, little more than a junction shaped like a Y, surrounded by miles of undeveloped desert. One side of the junction is labeled State Route 375, and the other is labeled State Route 318. A few trees stand between them. Before you is the Pahranagat Valley and the Crystal Springs themselves, an oasis in the vast Nevada desert. You are in a long but thin strip of green, surrounded by the abrupt, pale, dusty desert and hills. The grass is long and deeply colored, and it crowds around small, bubbling pools of water. You realize how long it's been since you've seen this color. You think, maybe, you understand how people feel when they see mirages. During the days of the Old West, the Pahranagat Valley was home to horse thieves coming from Utah, who gravitated toward the cooler, more fertile area. Today, the population of Crystal Springs is one, a tall, silver alien statue looming above a small white dome. And this is why you've really come to this town. This is the Crystal Springs Alien Research Center, the start of Route 375, the Extraterrestrial Highway. This highway is the stuff of legend, of prospectors and westerns, but also of aliens and UFOs and secrets buried in the sand and the stars. It travels through almost completely empty desert and parallels a U.S. Air Force range which includes Area 51, a part of the base that is so secret the CIA only admitted it existed in 2013. It lies just beyond Rachel, Nevada, and many travelers have reported strange activity around it and along this road. And you're going to drive there, to take the 98-mile road through the sand and over hills, and as far as they will possibly let you travel. But here, in Crystal Springs, you see a sign promising all things alien, and you decide you can't miss it. You drive off the side of the road, over small rocks and patches of grass, and park in a large gravel lot. Large rocks are placed in strange formations around the building. You walk toward the white dome, a little silver with the sun beating down on it, and open the door. Outside, it's completely nondescript and barren of any signs or decorations, but inside, it's really more of a gift shop than anything else. There aren't many people. Just a cashier and a family with 2 kids holding alien balloons. You walk up to the counter. The cashier looks middle-aged, with short, graying hair. Want some alien tequila, she asks. You look behind her. There are bottles plastered with alien stickers. You shake your head. I'm just stopping by, and I'm driving a pretty long way. All right then, she says. So how can I help you? Want a shirt? A postcard? Or do you want something else? Do you want to know the secret route? Now you're getting somewhere. The route to where? To Area 51. Where else? I'm always getting people coming in looking for it, and there are plenty of sets of instructions that will take you to the front gate, but I know the real way. You've got to go around back. It's not easy. I mean, this is serious stuff. What do you think is there, you ask? Weapons. They're making stuff we just can't ever know about. Spy planes and other experimental things. It's all out in the open. But it's also where they have the 2 spaceships from Roswell in New Mexico. Listen, there's aliens here. I don't know what it is about this area, but there's something drawing them in. There's unexplained cattle mutilations all the time. There's objects in the sky every night that I just can't explain. I keep hearing sounds that I don't understand. Every day people are coming in to tell me stories about their encounters. Every day. So if I tell you, you have to promise to not treat it like a joke. I promise, you say. She looks at you intently. Well, first of all, you've got to go during the day. It's too dangerous at night. You'll drive all the way down through the windy, curvy mountains to Rachel. It's a straight shot on the highway, about 40 minutes. Once you're at Rachel, you've got to go left around the bend in the road, and there will be a huge dirt road that goes into the mountains. It's the only road in the area. You'll see it. There's no name for the road, no sign telling you where you're going, just a stop sign. Be ready to slam on the brakes after about 20 minutes. There are no warning signs that you're getting too close. They used to have a sign that said something like, use of deadly force is authorized, but that's gone. It's hard to miss it and accidentally go past the line, but there's no gate to keep you out. But that's important. You need to remember. Don't cross the line. So, how will I know where the line is, you ask? Oh, you'll know, she says. You'll know. And there will be signs. You'll see. They'll make it clear for you. You nod. Thanks. This wasn't in your plan. And even though you've driven all the way across the country, you feel a thrill of excitement, of anticipation. I have a question, you ask, before stepping back outside into the desert air. If you're so interested in aliens, why do you work here? The woman nods. She's thought this through. UFO activity happens in so many places, she says. People like having a place where they don't feel stupid about it. And I like listening to people. If you don't listen, you never find out anything. It makes sense. Oh, and make sure you have enough gas when you head out, she says. Get it here. There's no gas in Rachel. There's not much, really. And so you head west on the highway, through the windy mountains. The road twists and turns between the mountains, some shadowy, almost a deep purple, others tinted silver, others gray and barren, like craters of the moon. You drive up a slope. Pale brown dirt and tinted warm colors rise up around you, like walls, like a cave, almost engulfing the road. A green sign says Hancock Summit. Everything feels larger and larger, and you can only look ahead of you. The slopes on your sides are too steep to see past. You come back down to land and pass through a dark tunnel inside a tall hill, with nothing but the sun far ahead of you to guide you. The land seems to widen, and the mountains seem further away, towering in the distance. You're surrounded by nothing but power lines. You pass a large parking lot with a kitschy billboard advertising alien fresh jerky, and a building with a huge painted mural. It's up the desert at night, the moon and stars surrounded by deep blues and reds and yellows. Aliens wear cowboy hats and drive wagons or sit around campfires. Next to the mural is a brightly colored menu. E.T. jerky from Area 51, ice cream and ice-cold water. You get a bright green ice cream cone and eat it on your car in the parking lot, and then you get gas and continue on your way, further down the summit, nearing the Air Force range with every passing moment. You see Joshua trees, trees you've only ever imagined, standing above the other, smaller plants, almost human-like. The road is completely open, with nothing separating you from the land. A group of cows wanders across. You slow down. You wonder where they're coming from. There are no houses, no farms in sight. You pass huge green Extraterrestrial Highway signs, covered in stickers and writing, and then you see a dirt path by the side of the road, leading to a small triangle of land. This triangle used to be marked by a single postal stop, known as the Black Mailbox, thought to be the only mailbox for Area 51. It was once covered in stickers, rocks, and planks of wood littered around it so you couldn't see what was holding it up. Messages and posters were taped to the rocks. People sometimes reached inside to try to find messages with confidential information, but the mailbox that stands there now, in the corner of the dirt triangle, is white with a box beneath it labeled Alien. Some still write on it, and even more gather there to spot UFOs, but now it's secure, constructed of bulletproof metal and shuttered with padlocks. No matter how hard you try, you won't be able to reach inside. And past the mailbox, there's a long dirt road leading straight into the horizon. This goes to the restricted land surrounding Area 51, and then to the main gate. Allegedly, each week 2 or 3 UFO sightings occur here. You begin to see cameras, placed at the height of the trees and painted the same pale brown as the ground. Some of them peek through the branches, and some of them are on tall poles and slowly move from left to right. You don't follow the dirt path. You continue on the road to Rachel, the cameras following you. You suddenly become very aware of your every movement, your every breath. After the mailbox, the road gets higher and higher until you reach another peak, Coyote Summit. You see snow on the ground. How high up are you? And then you hear a rumbling and look up to the sky to see planes flying overhead. You wonder where they're going. They pass over you, over the summit, over the sand and mountains and the bigger mountains in the distance, almost vanishing into the sky. It's late afternoon. The sun will be setting soon, and you need to arrive by nightfall. You speed up, driving into the sinking sun, the land turning red and orange. You see sand dunes in the distance, seemingly as tall as the mountains themselves, shimmering like ripples on the surface of water. They look soft, faded, and like they exist in another, less real world, one that you can't reach. And then you see Rachel, settled right below the dunes, just a few trees and some long, flat, white buildings. The rays of the sun shine on them, making everything little more than silhouettes in the bright light. But still, after miles of nothing but the land, it seems like another mirage, rippling in the summer air and whispering, beckoning, for you to come closer. There are only about 54 people here, and no post office. Electricity only arrived in 1978. Once, there was a small yellow house in the center of the desert with a wooden fence and small shrubs planted outside. It was surrounded by satellite dishes, lightning rods, radio antennae, and signs reading Area 51 Research Center. The research center documented paranormal activity in the area and was run by the citizens of Rachel. It closed in 2001. But you wonder if those same people are still in Rachel now, and if they have any stories to share. You drive closer to the town, which looks entirely empty, like nobody has been there in years. You imagine living here, just you and the sand and the sky that holds so many secrets. Every morning you'd open your door to the center of the desert. Right now, though, your journey is taking you to other places. You need to find the dirt path that takes you away from the road, into the mystery that nobody can solve. You need to see the line. And you need to do it before the sun sets. You turn around on the road and look for the path to your right, and then, after a few minutes, it's there, with only a stop sign marking it, like the woman said. It's the only other road for miles and miles, wide and made only of dirt. You're completely alone. You realize you haven't seen one other car, one other person even, on this highway. You turn and take the road. You look at your clock. 1 minute passes. 2, 3, 4. It's just you and your imagination. You You think of the cameras behind trees and rocks, and beings that may exist above you where you can't see, planes, but also maybe something more. The desert around you begins to look busier, with signs posted that warn of low-flying aircrafts. At minute 11, a single car rushes past, so fast you can't see the driver's face. You see hills, dunes, and small figures on top of them, silhouetted against the orange sky. You approach the dunes and make out people standing in a line, staring straight ahead, straight at you. You turn to your left and see white trucks sitting on the hills above you. To your right, you see cameras, less discreet this time, a jarring black against the pale desert colors. You look at the people again, standing far above what you can clearly see. You wonder if they can see into your car, if the crackling of the radio is them listening to your breath. The road is straight, maybe the straightest dirt road you've ever seen. A sign orders you to slow down, and you round a corner at 15 miles an hour. You drive between hills and mountain passages. Then, you drop into a gully, and abruptly, you arrive. It's the line. Your side is dirt. Theirs is paved. You're entirely surrounded by cameras and one sign. Warning, U.S. Air Force installation. Photography of this area is prohibited. No trespassing. Stop. So you stop. You peer past the line, and you see nothing but land. Even if there are no UFOs in Area 51, there's something worth keeping secret. You know there is so much you cannot know, and the unknown is somehow scarier than anything you can imagine, anything you can wrap your mind around. You look up at the figures, and it seems like they've moved closer, but your mind must be playing tricks on you. Still, you look down to put your car in reverse, and then look up again. Even closer, you squint and see a faint glow coming from the horizon, where the light is getting dimmer and dimmer. The figures advance in a line, slowly but menacingly. It'll be night soon. The glow grows larger. You turn slowly. You don't want to startle the figures. And then you straighten out on the road. You hesitate and put your car in drive and hit the gas pedal, driving faster than you ever have in your life. You are euphoric and free from the eyes all around you. Before you know it, you're in Rachel again. This time, you continue on the road until the buildings get closer, no longer silhouettes but fully formed. As the sun finally vanishes, you approach a small shop with a green alien statue in front. It's holding a Welcome Earthling sign. There's a large multicolored UFO statue next to it, and a white crane holding a spacecraft. Maybe, you think, this place will have people to talk to, people who have seen and heard strange things. You hope they have stories to tell, stories for you to hear. The store is called The Little Alien, and it has a flashing open sign on its door. You open the door to another tourist shop, smaller than the last, and more cluttered as well. Behind the counter are bottles, glasses, and mugs, and above them, old buttons and license plates, and magnets littering the walls. Framed pictures cover the store like a big collage, and all around you are alien souvenirs, balloons, masks, little metal figures. And then there are the other items packed into shelves labeled with brightly colored signs, maps, printed directions to Area 51 for 33 cents, spiral-bound handbooks to the area, badges, patches, knickknacks. 3 people sit in the corner, talking quietly and holding cans of beer. You hear a crashing, rumbling sound and jump. One of the people laughs. "That's a sonic boom," she says. She's an old woman with round glasses, and she's leaning against a tall shelf. "We think it's just the military doing air exercises somewhere out in the desert. We don't really know, but that's what we've got to tell ourselves." "Oh," you say. You turn to the shelf and browse through t-shirts, but the group is friendlier than you expected. They ask you where you're coming from, where you're going, what brings you here, and you tell them everything, right from the start. Your drive through the Northeast, the radio station that brought you to South Dakota, the bright lights that brought you down the West Coast, and then your drive to the line between here and Area 51, and the silhouettes who approached your car, closer and closer, until you had no choice but to flee into the sinking sun. And they listen, really listen, to every word. You realize it's been weeks since you've talked for this long, and since people have been so interested in what you have to say. They ask you if you've seen an alien or seen a ghost, and you, in turn, ask them. They get quiet. "We hear things all the time," one of them says. "People tell us about things that have happened to them, but we also just hear them, at night. Noises from the sky we can't explain, and lights, too, ones that move too much, or that are too large and bright to be stars." And then another person speaks up, an older man with a scratchy voice. 10 years ago, I still think I had a UFO encounter. I was walking down the road about a quarter mile away. It was just me and the stars and the sand. I started walking into the desert away from the road. I remember seeing that it was about 10:30. I kept walking, and I saw the lights in the sky getting bigger and closer, and then I felt myself jolt forward. I blinked, and then I fell to the ground. I checked the time, and it was 11:15. I have no idea where those 45 minutes went. I think it could have been a UFO, or some kind of technology being tested in Area 51 too. But I'm telling you, odd stuff is happening all the time here. It's just a part of life. You realize the entire group is looking out the window, and you follow their gaze. Night has fallen. "It's about time to go to the mountains," says the third member of the group, another woman with a soft voice and long black hair. She looks at you. "Do you want to come?" You wonder, what mountain? You wonder, how far away is it? You wonder if those figures could be waiting for you there, silhouettes turned into something dangerous, something real. But something about these people makes you trust them. And so out loud you say, "Sure." And the group opens the door, letting the night rush in. Outside, the desert is a whole different universe than the one you've been driving through all day. The town of Rachel has turned bright, with neon lights outlining window panes and rooftops. The little alien glows against the night sky. The signs painted across the front are a radiant green, and you notice bright lights strung across the roof. The open sign flashes on and off, like a lighthouse beacon for lost cars in the desert. But more radiant, more brilliant, are the bits of the galaxy coming to life above you. As you walk, the woman with long hair stares up into the night, quietly pointing out Venus, a steady golden brown glow, and Mars, a deep, dark red. The moon is full and a pale yellow, almost a harvest moon in the middle of summer. Behind the stars, you see a line of soft colors and dark clouds, like a pathway through the sky. It's the Milky Way, a highway of stars and shapes in an arc over the world. The group reaches the car and you follow them inside, and sit quietly as they murmur about their lives, about dinner and the phases of the moon. You listen to the radio, still crackling and playing a gentle, wordless melody, and you stare out the window at the black vortex of the world around you. No road, no mountains, just the car hurtling through the darkness and void. But the sky above is alive, breathing, conscious. The constellations are moving, taking shape, bears and eagles and swans and people darting across the Earth's atmosphere. Arrows fly from one end of the sky to the other, and fish glide from left to right. You see a shooting star, leaving a trail of lights in its path, blending in with the movements of the celestial beings surrounding it. You park at the base of the mountain, far off the edge of the road. The man with the scratchy voice opens the trunk and takes out a guitar case. The woman with long hair takes out a telescope. "I always worry the car will just sink into the sand while we're up there," the man says. But I tell myself, if it happens, it happens. As you walk up to the peak, the things in the sky ebb and flow like the tides, like a swing moving through the air, back and forth. You want to reach up, to touch it, to join the dance of the stars and planets and the stretches of the universe you can witness. You imagine them talking quietly to one another like the people down here, discussing dinner and their lives and the phases of the moon. You look down and see the car beneath you and the desert. Sounds of the night travel up to you, echoing across the rocks, animals rustling, howling, burrowing in the ground. You see the luminescent colors of Rachel from a distance. Windows glowing yellow, people moving inside, the colors of electric signs and lights outside houses, neon red, pale bright blue, yellow and green piercing the desert night. You see the shadows of mountains. You reach the top of the peak. The man with the scratchy voice sits on the rocks and plays a melody on the guitar. The woman with glasses beckons you to the edge of the mountain. "Look," she says. "Look out there." You look. On this mountain, when the right lights are on, you can see into Area 51. You look down into the abyss. You see faint lights, flickering on and off, up and down, small beacons of movement. And then, gradually, you see more lights, moving rapidly across the ground and slowly lifting off into the air. It's a plane taking flight, lights blurring into the sky. Everyone stops what they're doing and watches, silently, as it flies further and further and further away. Eventually, it disappears into the vortex of the sky. The world is quiet again. The woman with long black hair sets up her telescope. You join her, and she shows you clusters of stars in the sky, bunched together and flooding the darkness around them with light. She shows you Jupiter and the rings of Saturn, and galaxies, white and yellow pinwheels, and red and blue spirals illuminating the universe with colors. One is a soft pink and blue, like glitter spilled across a kitchen floor. One is massive, different shades of indigo with a huge, glowing white light inside. And then she shows you nebulae, red rings around deep blue seas of stars, and gold and turquoise supernova remnants. You see a nebula the deepest green you can imagine, opening up like a seashell. "That's a star factory," the woman says, "a stellar nursery." You peer at the white lights spread across the nebula through the telescope, and imagine the stars sleeping. "Do you see the colors?" she asks. You nod. "This is the only place where I've seen them like this. Anywhere else, all the galaxies and nebulae are just pale and white. I don't know what it is about this place. You don't know either, but as you look out over the edge of the mountain at the lights above and below you, you think about how constant the sky has remained throughout every moment of your journey. You've seen planes and comets, glowing lights and the Milky Way, but it's the same stars, the same moon, even though they always look a little different. It's easy to be caught up in mystery, in this perpetual state of not knowing, but there is so much you can understand about the sky, about the names and patterns and objects, about where the colors are coming from. These things will stay the same, and you will still be you." The man strums his guitar and sings, and you hear stories, and you tell stories, and you talk about your life, your fears, your destinations. You feel comfort in the mysteries of the universe. You feel home. A breeze drifts through the landscape, coming from some unknown force, stirring the dust beneath your feet. You smile. Tomorrow you will drive more. Supernatural Road Trip is written by Catherine Horowitz. Information comes from the Las Vegas Sun, The Star, National Geographic, RachelNevada.com, Las Vegas News 3, and the University of Nevada, Reno. Music is by Fiel, American Moon Bicycle, Cloud Harbor, and Cold Case.
Cryptid Girls